Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Friday, November the 5th, 2021. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am here to discuss a really great game main slate in the NBA tonight that we will be playing on Draftkings, Fanduel, and so we are going to dive into this today. Real quickly, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed. Give us a little comment or question. That combination really helps us move up the algorithm on YouTube. And hit the little bell button in the upper corner there. That alarm bell will let you know or alert you whenever any of our podcasts post, which we are posting 11 podcasts per week. So join us. We're here every day in the NBA, and we're going to get into this 9-game slate because I want to break this down. We're looking to crush it tonight, and we're going to get started with this first game at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's the Brooklyn Nets at the Detroit Pistons. Brooklyn is favored by 10. The over-under is 211.5. We have an implied total for 110.75 for Brooklyn and 100.75 for Detroit. For as far as the records in this game, Detroit is 1-7, rough start, young team trying to get out of the gate. Brooklyn is 5-3. As far as injuries out for Brooklyn is Claxton and Irving, and game time decision for Livers for Detroit. Other than that, they are healthy. Real quickly, let's throw this into the mix today. A couple more statistical analysis real quickly. As far as pace goes, Brooklyn is 8th in the league at a 102.5 pace, which is, above normal, not bad at all. And then as far as Detroit goes, excuse me, Detroit is down towards the bottom. They're 27th at a 94.9. So they will probably slow the pace down a bit in this game. That is a concern if you're loading up on some of the Brooklyn guys for sure. From a defensive efficient standpoint, Detroit is not done well on that side of the ball either. They're 24th, so that is an elevation to the Brooklyn the Brooklyn offense. The bizarre thing is Brooklyn's actually 8th. Now, again, let me beat you to the chase on this. I understand it's a small sample size. You have like 8 games is the average that everybody's played. But when you start talking about, a look at what these teams are doing, I really think it's important to mention these numbers because this isn't a carryover from last year. Numbers you're putting in there from a cruncher from last season don't apply. I mean, it's not like other sports like football or baseball where the numbers are the numbers. There's major variance here when you have guys moving from team to team. I mean, for example, the most bizarre thing is the Lakers. The main 12 guys that are on the roster to play in a given night, 9 of them are different from last year. Only LeBron, AD, and Taylor THT are back. So that gives you an idea of why we want to look at these numbers so soon. But Brooklyn is 8th, so it is early, but their defense has stepped up much better than it had prior. All right, let's talk about this a little bit. And again, I'll refer to DraftKings numbers as the day goes here just to keep things moving with 9 games. We can't go over all the pricing, but there are some big differences between DraftKings, Fanduel, and Yahoo, and definitely would recommend checking us out, jumping in our Discord, and we'll be talking about those there. You can't, go any further with Brooklyn other than talking about the fact that James Harden at 10.3 and Kevin Durant at 10.6 are the guys that you have to worry about here. I mean, they're both can blow up a slate. Question is, can you afford? You can't afford both of them, obviously, but you can afford one of them in this game if you think it's going to stay close. Again, Brooklyn favored by 10 with only that 211.5 over under makes me a little nervous there. And I do think they'll both share the ball. So I don't know if I'm leaning right now to either one of the big price up guys there. Wouldn't mind getting one of the two, but haven't made that decision yet. Still have to look at how the slate flows this afternoon, what value opens up, because it always does. And then we'll take it from there. Other than that, really not interested in the secondary guys for Brooklyn, even though they're playing a poor Detroit team. You know, when you talk about Brown, Harris, Griffin, Aldridge, Mills, Millsap, Bembry, Johnson, I mean, they're deep. They play a lot of guys, but none of them really knock it out of the park from a DFS points standpoint. And on a 9-game slate, you can't afford grabbing one of those guys and they take an 11 or 12 fantasy points for you. What I can't say is what everybody else I'm sure is going to say. Cade Cunningham is 4.6 on DraftKings. He's cheap across all the entire sites for DFS. And I think he's just an obvious play, you know, even if as a huge chalk blocker. I mean, for cash games, which I generally play cash and single entry GPPs, and that's what I refer to the most here. You know, Cade Cunningham at that price for the usage he's going to get is, I think, outstanding. He did fine yesterday. His numbers as far as DFS were good, but he still wasn't efficient. He didn't shoot the ball well. His percentages were low, but he's going to get opportunity. They're going to run plays for him. He's going to be on the floor, and he's just too cheap to look past. After that, Sadiq Bey at 6.7. I like him, but you're getting some sharing, you know, of the key buckets with Grant, Stewart, and Olynyk in particular. Grant at 7.4 is coming off a great game. Not sure that I want to focus on him as much, though, at that mid-level price. And then pretty much timeshare right now with Stewart, Olynyk. I know Stewart had a better game, and he's only 4.7. So that makes him a little tempting, but dangerous, because he can, you know, if Kelly O's going well, he can get squeezed out of a few minutes. So really, this first game, it comes down to, can I afford the Harden or Durant buy, which I wouldn't mind getting one of them, and then following up with the cheap Cade Cunningham on the other side. All right, let's go to game 2. San Antonio Spurs, Orlando Magic, 7 o'clock game. San Antonio favored by 4. It's a 213 over-under. So 2 low ones to start off the slate. 108.5 implied for the Spurs, 104.5 for the Orlando Magic. As far as their records, not good. Spurs 2-6, Orlando 2-7. Two teams definitely on the rebuild. Out for the Spurs is Collins and the big news, Pirtle. That changes everything for the Spurs. And then Orlando remains banged up. You have a questionable Gary Harris, MCW, Fultz, Isaac, and Moore are all out. So let's talk about the Spurs and Orlando as far as pace. From a pace standpoint, we're going to look at Orlando sitting at 18, so not much to do there. But how about this stat? This is going to blow your mind. Would you believe me if I told you that as far as pace, number 1 in the entire league right now is the San Antonio Spurs? Yes, you heard that right. And yes, I hear some of you saying, see, coach, it's a small sample size. You know what? A sample size is a sample size. But the Spurs are playing at the fastest pace in the league at a 104.3. So I'm not going to ignore that. I think it elevates Orlando a bit here, and more possessions, more opportunities. You got to love that. So I think it's something to take into effect. Now, as far as defense goes, Orlando's 27th, so poor, very poor defensively toward the bottom of the rung. San Antonio 11, somewhat in the middle of the pack. So what does that tell us here? What are we looking at? I think you've got some buys here. I think there's a lot of spots you can go. I think Cole Anthony has proven at 7.7 he's a stud. I know that he gets DeJounte Murray defense, but I still think he's playable. DeJounte Murray, by the way, is 9.1. So I know he's been great, but over 9K for Murray is just too much for me to bite off. I'll stick with going over some of the other Spurs guys as far as that side, because I do like Orlando's side better. Derek White at 6.1 has been getting decent minutes, but I'm not liking that whole feeling of White, McDermott, Johnson, Walker, Vassell. they're all really taking minutes there and splitting up the usage. They're all cheap, but I'm not going there on a 9-game slate with all the juicy guys here in these lineups. Where we need to discuss it really is a couple of things. Keldon Johnson, I guess at 5'2", you have to think about, but he can burn you for sure. But it's the bigs. Drew Eubanks was a big guy to go to at 4.2, but he split the game with Thad Young at center. So that's a concern. That's number one. So I'm not going to go to either one of those guys. The other thing is neither one of them finished the game on the floor. So that's, if you're going to take the shot at Eubanks at 4.2 or Thad Young at 5'3", you certainly want them on the floor to finish it. And they didn't. They went small. They actually, this is no joke, they had Keldon Johnson playing the 5 for the last 3.5 minutes of that game. So I am not going there. I will be a full fade. At least that makes me feel comfortable that I will not get popped on Friday night. As far as the other side of the ball, though, I'm probably going to have two guys here because I really, really like 4 guys in particular. Cole Anthony at 7.7. I think he's worth it. Don't trust Jalen Suggs yet at the 5'1" number, but the other 3 guys I do. Franz Wagner has been steady. He's 5'5". And again, San Antonio is playing with a fast pace. Wendell Carter Jr. at 6'4" is still very fairly priced in the 6s. A little bit higher on the Mo Bamba at 7'1". I think he's got a shot here to really dominate, though. It's a totally different story without Pirtle in there. And I know Eubanks will try to beat him up a little, but he's got a lot of size on Eubanks. And then Thad Young is crafty, but I think Bamba can do a good job here either way. So depending on build and depending on salary, I'll have a couple of Magic in my lineup tonight. All right, game 3. Memphis Grizzlies at Washington Wizards. It's also a 7 p.m. Eastern. There's 3 trio of games there that are playing at 7. This should be a good one, and it's a good DFS one. Memphis is only favored by 1, which is on the road. That's impressive, but it's a nice 223.5 over-under. You got to like that. Implied for Memphis, 112.25. For Washington, 111.25. So, you've got both teams very, very respectable in that realm. The Grizzlies are 5-3 and Washington's 5-3. So very even game. Dylan Brooks remains out for Memphis. They need him back. Washington has Bertans, Bryant, and Hashimura still out. And then Gill and Winston, deep bench players, are probable. So let's talk about pace here for Memphis and Washington. This is an interesting one because that high number makes you think they're going to get extra possessions. They're going to get up and down the floor. Memphis is 11th, so that's very solid. Top group. Washington is tied for 15th. So you do have 2 barely, but they're in the top half of the pace team. So again, Vegas looks at all that when they're producing their numbers. And then as far as from a defensive standpoint, this is where this game becomes even more interesting. Memphis is 29th in the league in defense. So that is not good. And it is definitely a sign to look at some Washington guys. Washington's 15th, middle of the pack. So how does this break out then? Let's look here. We've got Ja at a big 9.4. I don't know if he's not worth it, but it's amazing because Beal on the other side's 9.5. And without Brooks in there to guard Beal, I'm tempted on Beal as well. So it would be wonderful if I had extra salary, but I would love to have Morant versus Beal here and sit back and enjoy a game, where teams are playing pretty quickly and not great defense. Both, potential plays for me. On the Memphis side, you can get some good value with the DeAnthony Melton or Desmond Bane. My concern is, I think you're going to get KCP guarding Bane early on, and he's been a go-to value play for me, but I really respect KCP's defense. And when Bane's out, he'll probably guard Melton a little bit. Now, if they do take Dinwiddie off of Morant and put KCP on him, that would be a reason to fade Morant for me, but I think there'll be a rotation there. I think they'll let Dinwiddie start on him. So, I'm going to be watching a lot of coach speak and beat writer stuff to try to gain those matchups as the day goes on. Jaren Jackson Jr., 5.6. If you trust him, he gets in a lot of foul trouble. He did put up a good game the last game, but I'm just too inconsistent for me. Great GPP play, but that's about it. After that, not interested in any of the bench. I know Zaire Williams at 3.1 is tempting because he will come off the bench and chuck some threes. Tyus Jones has been out of his mind the last few games, but that screams as a trap play. I think a lot of people are going to say, hey, look at those last 2 games. He's getting some minutes. He's really producing. He's only 3.5. I've seen this too many times, though, and I think I'll be happy to pass him and not take a shot at that trap. For the Washington side, again, I do have some interest in Bradley Beal. I think that certainly garners some attention. That would be the person I'd go to on that side. Dinwiddie at 7K is right on that bumper of where I think he could be an interesting play. Just maybe just a touch high, but right at that number. Kuzma at 6.9. He was dinged up a little bit, but he's going to play. Little expensive there. Not thrilled that Gafford and Harrell are sharing center minutes. Again, it was much easier when Gafford was out and we could, just pile in Montrezl Harrell. But Harrell's now priced where he should be at 6.5. It makes it a lot harder on a 9-game slate to take up your center spot with him at that price. And Gafford, just not worth it for the minutes. I will say some of the bench, Neto, Avdia, those guys played a lot better. They're real cheap. GPP plays, though, for sure. They definitely have the potential there. All right, next one, Knicks Bucks. Milwaukee's favored by 4.5. It's a 218.5 over under. Knicks a 107 implied, Bucks 111.5. So this could be an interesting game. I know the number's down a little bit lower, but I still think it's a playable game. 7:30 Eastern game, by the way. Knicks 5-3, Bucks 4-4. So, a couple of things here. Injuries, Knicks are clear. Drew Holiday is probable, so he's more than likely going to play. However, I don't know what type of minutes restrictions will be there. I'll be scouring everything to find out what those are, because if he's going to play 30-plus minutes, I think, in this matchup against the Knicks, I don't like the Knicks' backcourt defense, then he would be very playable. But if they're going to bring him along slow, 20 minutes, whatever, not in play. DiVincenzo, Lopez, and Middleton. Bing, bing, bing. 3 starters from last year, all out still for this game, which makes everybody just dive onto Giannis. And a lot of people playing Thanasis. I'm not as high on him at all. I think, Bobby Portis scoots a lot of those minutes. Really what it comes down to in this game, let's talk about real quickly. We want to keep checking these numbers because, like I say, with 10% or so, 12% of the season in, again, small, but it's worth looking at because, again, big shifts from last year. So as far as pace go, Milwaukee is second in the league to San Antonio. You'd win a bar bet, free beer betting San Antonio, number 1 pace, by the way. But Milwaukee was fast last year. They're fast this year. No changes there whatsoever. And then, of course, we know that the Knicks play pretty slow. Not as bad as last year, though. They're 19th. Last year, they were down towards the bottom. They really pounded the ball and played half court. But with all those guards, they have pushed the ball a little bit more than they have in the past. So that does get a little bit more interest in this game. This might be a good overplay, too, by the way. As far as defensive efficiency, the Knicks, who get all this credit for being such a phenomenal, efficient defensive team, guess what? Not this year. They're 21st. So slow out of the gate. Not the rating anywhere near what they had last year, 106.7, which is not what they expected. So the rumors of their phenomenal defense continuing from last year is not there. Milwaukee also not anywhere near where they were last year. They're 14th in the middle of the pack, but again, they have not put those pieces together. A lot of it's because they've had injuries. So again, with those numbers, I think they tell you something. And I think that it makes guys playable here. I've avoided the Knicks backcourt and will continue. I'll mention it each day for those of you that think, okay, this is a Kemba Walker, Evan Fournier, Derrick Rose, Iman Quickly, Alec Burks. If you want to play one of those guys, be my guest. But I'm not accepting all the minute splits and all of the potential. If somebody's hot, they get to stay in there, not on a 9-game slate. So I'm not going anywhere near any of that. RJ Barrett's stepping up his game. He's up to a 6.8 price tag, which, is a little higher than I'd like. Julius Randle, not going to go there with Giannis defense at 9.6, and certainly don't want any part of, similar to their guard rotation, the Knicks are utilizing Mitch Robinson and then Taj Gibson and Nerlens Noel mixing back in now. So, yeah, the Knicks are not a fun team to roster as far as DFS-wise, unless you have Randle in a good matchup. It really comes down to that for me. The Bucks side is different for me, though. I think Giannis is going to undoubtedly be my pay up. I know he's 11-8. I get it. But I think this game will stay close. He's the best DFS points guy in the league, period. I'll argue that with anybody. And I don't want to be chasing a 70 burger from Giannis. I'll just plug him in and make the rest work, find some value. And again, value opens up every day. After that, Drew Holiday at 6'5" is a great play if we know he's going to play big enough minutes. So that's the news that becomes most important. After that, I think Pat Connaughton's been steady enough for a 4.8K price tag. I don't mind him. He would probably be my second favorite. George Hill, you don't want to consider with Holiday being back now. And, I like Bobby Portis at that 4.7 number. I would play him over Thanasis personally at the 3.4 number. So Portis has potential as a second guy in. I wouldn't mind going Giannis Connaughton or Giannis Portis. All right. We go to another 7:30 game. So we have two of those. They're the only two on the board. It's the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Toronto Raptors. Toronto's -5.5. It's a 210.5 over/under, so low number. 102.5 for Cleveland implied, 108 for Toronto. Interesting game here. Not, a lot of risk, but there could be some reward. These are two teams playing better than anybody expected. Cleveland's a very impressive 5-4, and they play hard. Bickerstaff doing a great job there. And then Nick Nurse is Nick Nurse. He's one of the top 3-4 coaches in the league. He's got Toronto at 6-3, even with all these changes that they made, losing Lowry, no Siakam all year so far. Very impressive, man. Injuries for Cleveland out is Love, Markkanen, and Okoro, 3 rotation guys for them. And then Siakam and Watanabe remain out for Toronto. So this game is interesting. I think that I know the number's low, and these teams both have a tendency to play some low scores, but I like the fact that I think it's going to be competitive. As far as pace goes, let's look at that first. Cleveland is 14th, right in the middle of the pack. Toronto's only 20th. Hence, that's why you've got the Vegas total being low. So that doesn't get you excited. As far as defense, Cleveland respectable 10, top 10 in the league defensively, which is really pretty amazing accomplishment since they were down at the bottom all year last year. And Nick Nurse, he gets them scrambling, trapping. He does a lot of like college stuff. That's what I love. He puts a lot of twists in the defense. They're at a 101. So I respect that as well. So all of those numbers, confirm this fact that the over-under's low here, and there may not be as many DFS points available. But let's discuss who is. I mean, Darius Garland has been terrific. I think he's playing at another level. He's 6.5. But what I will say is I've seen 2 of the last 3 games. He did not finish the game on the floor. And that's because he's a poor defender. Colin Sexton, 6.4, didn't finish the game on the floor. That tells you what we've been talking about for so long. And that's how good of a coach Bickerstaff is. You have a starting backcourt of Garland and Sexton. They're terrific players, but they're such a defensive, inefficient pair that they take them both off the floor at the end of the game. It's amazing. You had Rubio in there with Jetty, Wade, Mobley, and Allen at the end of the game. Windler got in there a little bit. Stevens got in there a little bit, but they just can't defend with those guards. So it does hurt that you don't get those extra minutes, those free foul shots at the end that you normally would. But I do like Garland a little bit better than Sexton, but I don't think I'm going to go anywhere there. Mobley's going to be pretty chalky. He's 7'2". He's still in that mid-range. And, he's been putting up numbers. Jared Allen almost broke the slate last time out, and he's only 6'6". You certainly can go there, especially with the fact that Toronto's somewhat playing center by committee with Achua and Birch and a little bit of Boucher. So, I think Allen's in play. I actually like him a little bit better than Mobley for the first time. And it's not points chasing because Allen had a great game last time. I just think it's a better scenario for him. But he can sting you. He is known to be a guy that'll put up a big game and then a complete dud. So maybe GPP might slide into a cash game for me. A couple of guys I really like, though. I like both back. I like all 3 guys at the 1, 2, 3 for Toronto. I'd love to take 2 of these guys and just plug them in, but it's a 210.5 game with less possessions, so it stings. I may end up going down to just one of them, but it's Fred VanVleet at 8'8", which is a little much. Trent Jr., who I've just been all over, and he's been great. He's still only 5'5", so he's the favorite to make my lineup so far for sure. He's playing so well. OG Anunoby, he's been great, but he's all the way up to 8K. This is a guy that last year there were times we paid upper 4s, and now he's 8K. The tough thing about liking all those guys is Scotty Barnes is back. He missed a game or 2 with injury. He's 6.8, which is about where he should be, but he does take some usage up. He gets some loose balls, rebounds, putbacks, and will take some shots. So he's tempting also. Not going to go with the Achua, Birch, Boucher. Now, I will say this. Svi Mykhailiuk is a nice ball player. He's going to get good minutes off the bench, but he's backing up. And even at 4.1, I just can't go there on this type of slate. And then Banton is, he's the Toronto kid that's actually now worth discussing. I mean, he's getting minutes. He produces when he's in there, and he's dead min at 3K. So really like him as far as a GPP goes. Not going to play him in cash, though. So more than likely in this game, really to wrap it up, Jared Allen, a good shot to make my lineup today, or depending if I have that extra cash and I want to switch it that way, or maybe both. I mean, that would be very, very contrarian. And then on the other side, Trent at that 5.5 number is great. And then probably either Anunoby at 8 or Scotty Barnes at 6.8. I'd like to go 2, but it's going to be tough. Got to watch the value here. All right. 5 down, 4 to go. Super quick today because I don't want to make this too long. This is the perfect day to join us. Fridays, I mean, you can't beat it. You can join Coach Talk by going to dfscoachtalk.com, and for a 3-day pass, it's $10. I mean, you spend that at McDonald's on some fries and a shake and something else. So try us out. We're much more healthy than McDonald's, and you get all our weekend action. So today you get all of our NBA, you get our PGA weekend lineups, which we'll be posting tonight. And then, of course, huge day tomorrow of basketball. Sunday, you've got all the football you can eat. And our team of Andrew, Omaha Joe, as he's known now in these parts, and Mr. Josh Crash Davis do a phenomenal job on the football side of things. So try us out. 3 days, $10. If you want to go get all the way through to Monday to get the Monday night game, you can get a 5-day pass for $19. If you have any questions, shoot us a message here on YouTube, DFS Coach Talk. Hopefully, if that's where you're watching us. If you're listening to us audio-wise, anywhere audio podcast can be heard, take a second there, give us a top rating and a quick comment. You'll get into a drawing to win a free 5-day membership. So we'd appreciate that. But if you have any questions, you can hit us up on any of those mediums, including Twitter. We're at DFS Coach Talk. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. All right, first 8 o'clock game, 4 to go. We've got the Los Angeles Clippers, Minnesota Timberwolves. Clippers favored by 2.5, 214.5 is the over-under. Implied for the Clippers, 108.5. For the Timberwolves, 106. And then what we've got here, the Clippers 3-4, Minnesota 3-4. So two teams really scrapping. One of these two will get to 500. Both, can be dangerous teams. Minnesota, key guy out, D'Angelo Russell. That shuffles the deck a bit. And Clippers, we know, are completely banged up. Ibaka, Leonard, Morris, Preston out. Let's take a look at the pace here, because this, I think, is an interesting piece of this puzzle. Clippers are all the way up to 6th in pace. So they are getting up and down the floor, and that makes it pretty palatable. And guess what? Minnesota's 7th. So you've got two teams in the top 7 in pace. I love that. That puts this game on the map for me. It's the best combo so far as what they're producing from a pace standpoint. From a defensive standpoint, even without Kawhi, the Clippers are the 6th most efficient team defensively, which is no surprise with stalwarts that they have on that defensive side. Also, as far as defense goes for Minnesota, they are also very respectable at 9th. So, they have that's been an incredible turnaround, because they were down towards the bottom all of last year. So you've got two pretty quick teams, but two pretty quick defensive teams. So that gives you a bit of a dilemma here. But let's see if there's any diamonds that we can pull out. Reggie Jackson at 6'1", Eric Bledsoe at 4'2", possibly, challenging. I'll tell you why. More than likely, Pat Bev's going to start a point guard against his old team, the Clippers. So he, at 4K, is going to be so much up in the business of those guards. It's not even going to be funny. It actually makes Beverly playable for me. I know that he's going to split some time at point. You'll get McLaughlin. You'll get a little Beasley, a little Edwards even. I mean, they'll switch it around. But Pat Bev at 4K is in play for me because it's his old team. Really good revenge narrative here, and I think he'll be up to do really well. As far as the other Clippers go, Paul George is another option for a big pay-up guy at 10-4. My concern there, I think he's a great play. I always do. But at 10-4, he'll get a combination of Okogie, McDaniels, and